we have the incredible capacity to just choose once. And when we do, we flip that upside down world the right way up, and we start to believe we can be a hero of our own worlds. Mm-hmm. We can make a difference. We can impact people. We can love.
What is up, Impact Heroes? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Rick Ornelas. Thank you for spending some time with us today because we know time's a valuable resource and we're going to make it worth your while. I appreciate each and every one of you, not just for listening, but for who you are. I know you're sparking change to make the world a better place every day, and I am humbled and grateful for your efforts. It takes all of us doing our part to spread positive change, and that's what this show is all about. Motivating you with stories of struggle, courage, and hope to empower you to make a difference in your life and the lives of others.
Are you interested in having Rick speak at your event or business? Here is what others have to say.
Did not know his story, and it was so inspirational, and his presence on stage, his authenticity was just incredible.
I absolutely loved his performance. It made me feel some type of way.
If you're looking for a speaker for your next event, hire Rick. I promise you this, you will not be disappointed.
Visit rickornelas.com to book him today.
Welcome back, Impact Heroes. Today we have the pleasure of speaking to our latest iSpark Change social impact hero, and she is someone who definitely sparks change through her work. So our guest has been described as a firecracker with a huge heart. She has experienced the highs and lows of life and even had her world implode when she least expected it. These challenges taught her how to break through the lies of doubt, shame, and negative self-talk to replace them with self-confidence, love, and empowering words of truth. And all of this has made her an expert in living a life of abundance and overcoming adversity. She's the motivated, take charge, and unstoppable founder of Inspiring Perspectives and an all-around great human being who has a massive heart for people, animals, and nature. Please welcome all the way from New Zealand, the authentic and positive Sally Webb. Sally, welcome to the iSpark Change podcast.
Oh my goodness, I should pay you for that. What a fabulous introduction. Yay. I feel like I'm $1 million and I haven't even started.
Well, hey, guess what? It's all your story. You know, I was just sharing it in a creative manner. So I appreciate that you appreciate it, because I take pride in those intros because, if people are going to do me the favor of coming on the show, then I'm going to return that favor by introducing them in the best way I can. So.
Bless you. I do. I feel like I've just gone up about 10 pegs just by.
Well, good. That's the perfect place to start. Well, let's start there where because you should feel that way. Yeah. You have an incredible background in bio. So we see you as someone who's spreading positive change in the world, someone whose actions have a positive impact on humanity, someone that we call a social impact hero on the iSpark Change podcast. And that's by our definition, which it's an acronym. So we'll get into that during the conversation. But I do want to ask, first question we always ask everyone on the podcast, do you see yourself as a hero, Sally?
Yeah, I guess I do. I'm a hero of my own story. I'm a hero of what I do. And I'm here I love the fact that actually and you are making massive impact because our words change our worlds. And I'm here, my world, the beautiful world that I live in, is positive, uplifting, it's caring, it's empathetic, it's generous. And I want the whole world to be like that. But it starts with me being the hero of my world and doing what I'm called to do, and just to love, to care, to honor, respect. And when I start to do that, it pours from there.
Yeah, I love everything that you're saying, because that resonates with everything that iSpark Change is all about. That's one of the reasons when I had the idea for iSpark Change, sparking change kind of was a theme that came to me when I was writing my book, 12 Hours of Heaven. And I was like, be a spark, sparking change. And then I was like, wait a second, it starts with the individual. It starts with you, with and then you spark change doesn't really sound good. So then it's like I spark change, because in order for me to change the world and make the world a better place, it has to start with me, right? It has to start with the individual, and then, trickle out as you were saying. So yeah, we're totally in agreement there. It's good to see that, it doesn't matter where someone's from. It doesn't matter what their background is, that, as I've been on this journey for the past 2 years, that I've realized that there's so many people that they want the same thing. They want the world to be filled with love and positivity and to be a beautiful place. So Sally, I do want to get into, you said hero of your own story. So I want to get into how you got to where you are now, because every hero has their origin story of how they first, became a social impact hero, but more importantly, how you got to this point in your life. So share with our audience, were you always someone that believed that you could have an impact on the world and love the world, and love was a big part of it, or how did you get here?
Oh, that's such a big question. Right, let's see if I can answer it. Dive deep. Okay, so always believed in God. That's the bottom line. Didn't really get it, but always believed. As a kid, going through school, never really fitted in, was always a little bit different, always quite outspoken. And I always had this sense that God existed, that I was never alone. I was alone often as a human being, in terms of I didn't always fit into the cool crew. And so that maybe was my journey. But I always believed that things would happen for good. So I've always had that sitting behind everything that I've done. And things have turned upside down, but I always believed it would happen for good. Anyway, long story short, left school, didn't make university because I flunked an exam, went off, walked into retail, ended up going boff, 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 up the ladder pretty quickly and being headhunted, because I'm a great people person. I love people. I'm great with people. And all I ever did right from, I suppose, 13, when I was teaching kids to ride ponies, is help people overcome, help people, if they're stuck with something, how to overcome. So if they can't learn to canter, or they can't learn to jump a fence, or whatever it was, we would get over that physical hurdle. And I did the same in my retail career, whether it was managing teams of 6 or 200. It was always about people. It was always about, are you the right person in the right lane at the right time? It is no point in putting a square peg in a round hole. It doesn't fit. Mm-hmm. And so my journey was always around that. Got married, had kids, married a Kiwi, came to New Zealand, the most beautiful place in the world, coming from England, which I also enjoy. Came here and cracked on, powered into the kids, powered into adding extra value. Again, worked for Tupperware for a while because it was a part-time job I could do around the kids, bring some money in, and focused very much on them. Completely forgot that my marriage was important. Meanwhile, my husband at that time, went off, and he was, running Germinal Seeds in New Zealand. And so he was heading that up, wining and dining, having a great time, and our marriage went like that. So I hit rock bottom when that imploded. I hadn't put the work in. He hadn't put the work in. It had gone really toxic. We ended up in a domestic violence situation. So it was pretty grim. And when that imploded, the income went and the support went, because all of his family were from here. Mine weren't here. And I was like, holy moly, where do I go to from here? And so, as far as I was concerned, I was very much alone. And to cut a long story short, sorted myself out, went to work in income, 0800, can I have some help, job seekers allowance, because I went from big income to nothing, or very little, and went from there. But really the turning point for me, and I got another job, went into retail, back to something I knew, on fire, but it just wasn't right, didn't fit right for me. And so I actually ended up meeting a chap that I'd known for a long time and getting together with him, went to his church. And the turning point was that moment. Now, I'd been to chapels, I've been to other places, but we went and I snuck in at the back because I thought, if I just come in at the back, it's his church with his son, just need to let it be. Anyway, there was a guy speaking. He was prophetic. I've got no idea what that was. He was just a visitor. I was like, what the heck? Anyway, he says, and who are you, sir? He goes, oh, I'm Kevin. Who are you with? And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is far too close for comfort. And he said, I'm with my fiance. No one even knew we were engaged. The whole church turned around. I'm like, I was meant to be quietly coming in when no one would notice me. And it's like, here, spotlight on Sal. Anyway, Guy had a word of knowledge, and he prophetically spoke over this business on that day. That was 4 years ago. Gave my life to Jesus not very long after that, and my whole world flipped into something unreal. I left the full-time job that I wasn't meant to be in, and I started this business. And from the moment that I stepped into this business, it has just gone from glory to glory, from strength to strength. And ultimately, all I do is take people when something has got stuck, when you're in a rut, you've got stuck, you're at a crossroads in life, you're not sure where to go next, I take them out of the darkness into the light. That was the prophetic words. He said, I see you literally grabbing people's hands and saying, come with me, walk with me, I can show you a better way. And it's not about preaching the gospel, although that is absolutely where everything comes from. It's about the heart of God. It's about that heart of love. It's about, I can feel it. Just not letting people, the world is all about money, and it's all about achieving and striving and working. And God is all about relationship. And he says, come on, guys, if you just put the people first, if you look after your relationships, if you sort yourself out, I will give you everything. And I'm here with everything. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is super cool. And I just want it does. It absolutely, when he says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything will be given to you, I am sitting here today as a testimony to entirely that. Now, my heart has always been for people, but there was something that when I gave my life to Jesus, or when I said, right, you're in charge, the whole world for me opened up. Unreal.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing the story, because I think it's really important that people understand that not everybody has this linear, easy path to where they are now, that it's going to have pitfalls, it's going to have challenges, as yours did. It's going to have highs and lows. And, like I said in the beginning, in your intro, is that, it's out of those challenges that you can learn, that you learned how to love and empower others and everything. And that's a beautiful thing. So part of being I'm glad that you see yourself as a hero. And it's interesting, Sally, because a lot of times on the show, I'd say most of the time when I ask that question, people say no. They're like, no, I'm not really a hero. I'm just, and, sometimes I'll dance around it, but the fact that you believe that you're having an impact, that you're making others better, that's heroic in its own nature. So as far as being a hero, part of it is honoring the acronym. The H is honoring your purpose. The purpose is what defines you. It's how you show up in the world, and the foundation of why you do what you do. So what would you say that is the purpose that you've created in your life?
I think the purpose, I have always wanted world peace. I always want peace. So for me, that is what drives everything that I do. And it's not world peace as in world peace. I'd love that, but that's God's job. Mm-hmm. My job is to create peace and harmony and honor and respect in everything that I do, everyone that I meet, every conversation that I have, every person that I come into contact with. My purpose is that every person I connect with leaves better than before they connected with me.
Wow, and that's simple, right? It's so simple. It's just, hey, just leave them better than before they met me.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a beautiful purpose, because think of if everyone did that in the world, and I mean, Jesus taught that to us, over 2,000 years ago, right? Just doing to others, But if everyone did that, then yes, that is a peaceful world. That is a beautiful world. So in doing that purpose, obviously you're doing that in different ways. You're doing that through your coaching and events and different things. Do you feel that in your journeys, especially the last 4 years, do you feel that people are accepting of that purpose, or does it resonate with others? Do they resist it? Like what have you seen with others?
Oh, that's a goodie, because that's exactly where I sit right now in the battle. I'm not for everyone. And so that is a big thing that I've had to learn, is that I'm not for everyone. Some people like me, some people don't. That's cool. That's their choice. And I think people who come to me come because they want to change. And so the resistance is very little, because at the end of the day, they are looking for more in their lives. They might have, a lot of people that I coach have everything. They've got the flash car, they've got the fabulous house, they've got the amazing lifestyle, but they're empty on the inside. And so they just want to get that sorted. So I have very little resistance when people come to me. Obviously, when you go out, it's a whole different ballgame, because you go out into the big wide world, and I'm not for everyone. But the beauty of it is if we stand, all of us, just stand for who we are and what we are, those that like us and love us will come. And those that don't is for somebody else. And so I have no qualms. You'll go put this out, and some of your listeners will be going, golly, what did you have her on for? And that's cool, because that's another thing that I got from Jesus, and I'm like, oh, quite like this, is where he says, like me or hate me, or love me or hate me, but don't be in the middle.
Yeah, no lukewarm.
I embrace the fact that I'm either your bag or I'm not, but don't sit on the fence and be wishy-washy, because that's super dull.
Yeah, I agree completely, because that's not where any change happens. That's not where any growth happens, is just sitting there on the fence, just being wishy-washy, right? You either have to go to one side or the other and say, all right, I'm going to embrace this and I'm going to dive right in, or, hey, I'm going to do something else. But at least you're making a choice, and you're about something. So that's, I see how, you say go out there to, put yourself out there and everything. The E of hero is engages their audience in their mission. So how are you sharing what you're all about with others? How do you do that? And how do you connect with people?
Well, I love that question, because I'm right on the beginning of my going out journey. I have kept myself super quiet, coach people one-on-one, people that I know. It's all been word of mouth. It's all been referrals, and it's been outstanding. But I've been told to go out there. So I'm now on Facebook, now on Instagram, now on YouTube. Oh my goodness, how did that's since January. So it's fairly fresh. And I'm learning as I'm going. So some stuff's personal, some stuff is sharing the event that's coming up, because that's really what's got me motivated to go out there. But really, it's about, I've just got to build relationships through whatever. And so if I'm doing it in social media, it's the same as I would do if I'm a human being having a conversation with you now. But it's time to go out. And the message that I got was, it's time to take ground in the social media. Social media is such a revolting place to live, which is why I've never really ventured out there, because it's a bit dark. And it's time to shine the light. And I just want to go back to something you mentioned earlier about sparking, because God has given me 3 or 4 times, in fact, it might even be more than that. He shows me that each of us are lampstands. So each of us shine our light as we go. And when we connect, as you and I are now, it's like electricity, it sparks. And remind. So it's like, oh, that's the spark, and that's the Holy Spirit. And what God, I believe, wants to do is he wants all of us that are doing good, that are changing, he wants us all to stand, he wants us all to speak out, and he wants us all to connect so that he can weave his web, his worldwide web, which is the kingdom, this way. And so we can, as we connect, we are actually covering. So that is what's actually getting me to get out of my discomfort of the fact that I don't particularly like social media, because it's all, look at me, I'm amazing. The fact that after that photograph that they just took, the kids are screaming. You don't see any of that on social media. So it's just, this is what's getting me to step out in faith, is to say, no, if I don't stand, how I need to shine my light for others to stand too. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah, totally. Because it's showing that, you feel called to do your part, that kingdom, that web doesn't exist without everyone, bringing their part together. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people miss. And I did for many years as well, is that I think a lot of people feel, as I did, that they're too small, that they're one individual, that how can they make a difference, that if, it's up to someone else. And to use your terms, right, that, oh yeah, that can be talked about in church, but it doesn't have to be me that talks about that. And what I realized just a few short years ago was that, like we said at the top of the show, is that everyone makes a difference. Everyone has that spark within them. Everyone can spark change. And so by doing that lampstand that you talked about becomes so much brighter. It's something that literally can brighten the whole world, as opposed to just one little segment of the world. And that, it's funny because I always love how, and I always pray that the Holy Spirit guides these conversations, but I always love how everything just flows together so naturally in the conversation, because that brings us to the R of hero, which is ripples their message to others to spread positive change. And that's exactly what we're doing here in our conversation. And that's exactly what you're doing, is that you're rippling that message and doing it to make a positive impact on others, and to, help them on their journey, and to help them be brighter lights where they are. And it's the same thing that I do in my work, is helping others to be a brighter light, I guess. Yeah. So have you encountered a lot of resistance as you've begun to do that? And I know it's early, let's say on the social media side, but just in general, as you've been putting these messages out there, have you encountered resistance or any backlash or anything?
No resistance yet. So I'm just saying, thank you, Jesus. Keep that going, because I need encouragement to keep firing forward. However, what has been really interesting is that people don't respond. So I'll put something up there and you think, golly, did anybody even read that? Did anybody even notice it? And then I walked into the stationers the other day to pick up the printers, pick up the posters for the event. And lady I hadn't seen for a while bumped, oh, hi, how are you? Oh my goodness, I've been following you. Isn't that amazing? I'm like, why doesn't people want to speak? I'm like, and then last night, we were at dinner with my amazing husband, and another couple of friends haven't seen for a while, maybe 2 years, sat next to us. I said, oh, how are you? Gave them a hug, and like, you haven't been posting on social media recently on the particular Facebook page that's our village, She said, I've been loving your inspirational quotes. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so what I am seeing specifically more than resistance is people's battles with their own minds and their own hearts, and them not wanting to, they don't want to step out, they don't want to ruffle any feathers, they don't want to be seen as liking something or not liking something. So the biggest battle, I think, there's 2 or 3 things that I see breakthrough is needed for. One is for people to really believe that they are uniquely designed to be brilliant, which is part of what I do. Because once we know what our purpose is, what our value is, what our identity is, we're on fire. We stand and we say, yay, and we encourage others when they're doing something good, and we say no when it's not. But so many people are just not even responding. So they're taking this stuff in. It's like the parable of the sower. They're taking this stuff in and then it's gone again. And it's like, and so I've got this horrendous fire in my belly. It's like, I want to go and shake people, but that's really not politically correct to do. Come on, wake up. There is the most amazing life to be had. And you're just like robots. You're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. You don't like your job. You don't like your marriage. Holy moly. Anyway, so the resistance is actually probably mine, not theirs. But they don't know that there's another way. They don't know that they can have fun. They don't know they can have their cake and eat it. And that's it's a battle constantly with me.
It's interesting you say that I guess what I'm hearing, Sally, is that the resistance is oftentimes inside everyone's own mind. You said it's in your own head, and it's probably in their own mind. And so often we can't get past our own thoughts. We can't get past that voice in our head that stops us from doing something that might be the greatest thing in the world, or that fear that gets in the way. And I think by sharing all the aspects of yourself, right? Whether you're uncomfortable, like I like to say that we're all flawsome, we're all flawed and awesome. And so by sharing, you know, our flawsomeness, that's how we connect with others, because everyone sees that, you know, our mess is our message, and they learn from who we are. And I think it's important to mention that that fear piece, because that's something we end up talking a lot about on the podcast with our guests, is because more often than not, it's played an aspect in everyone's journey, is fear of the unknown, or fear to do something new, or fear of, you know, what's around the next corner. So has that played a role on your journey, you know, in your journey along the way, and as you've learned the different lessons that you have to, you know, to do everything in opening your heart to the world, has fear played any role there, where you were fearful of what people would say, or where you've been fearful of what would happen, or, you know, anything like that?
Holy moly, yes. And actually at conference, one of the ladies that's speaking, I met her at Fast Foundations when we were working with Chris and Laurie Hardle, went into a small breakout room. And so this was 2 years ago, and she's a social media expert. And she said, oh, so are you putting your business out on social media? And I'm like, no, I don't like that stuff. Not doing that stuff, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, and then she said, well, there must be a why. Why don't you like that stuff? Well, with that, I just burst into tears. Like, oh my goodness, and it was, she said, who? There's always a who. Behind your fear, there's always a point. And in social media, there's always a who with everybody that she's coached. And not that she's a coach, but everyone she's spoken to. And I said, oh my goodness, it's my ex-husband. It's because I had such a horrendous time. Ooh, I can even feel it now. Because I was in his town. Every time I went for coffee when we split, I'd get a phone call. Oh, I see you've had coffee with that person. He literally stalked me. I could not go anywhere. And so I shut down. Ooh, I've never shared that. Shut down my social media, and I really just went to ground. Now, isn't it funny that the things that make us go to ground, where the enemy said, nah, let's get rid of her, let's get her out of the way, and let's just put it in there. And so that was my fear. Well, bless that beautiful lady. She's walked with me for 2 years. She's now helped me with my social media. That's why we're out there. Revamp my website. I'm putting it out there. But fear is false evidence appearing real. Fear acronyms. And I believe together, everyone achieves more, because we are all here to work together in unity and one accord. So I've surrounded myself with some super cool people who, when I have my wobbles, which I do regularly, you know, like it's not like it goes away. I go, just remind me that this is the right thing, you know, so-and-so. So yes, I do have big fears. My biggest fear was going out there. But what I've seen and evidenced every time is when we step out in faith, the fear goes away and our breakthrough comes every single time without fail. The joy of the Lord, or the victory, every single time is on the other side of something that you procrastinate over, which is fear.
That's so profound, and so true. And I think a lot of people don't ever get to realize that, because the fear just holds them back. And the uncertainty and the lack of faith prevents them from taking action and moving in that direction. And that's the unfortunate reality for a lot of people out there in the world and in society. And, you know, you mentioned social media, and I would say that people always see they always think that everything is just roses and, you know, peaches and cream on social media. That's all happy and positive. And that's not the reality of life, is that it's going to have the ups and the downs and the positives and the negatives. And you can't have the good without the bad, but it's in overcoming those challenges. It's in moving past the struggles that it makes the other side so much more rewarding. And, you know, and everything being just on the other side of the fear and having that faith. And so I know that I can tell, Sally, that you do open your heart to the world, which is the O in hero, that you definitely open your heart to the world. You're not afraid to be authentic, to be vulnerable. It allows others to connect with you on a deeper level. What would you say? Would you say that that's a gift that you've always had, or is that something that you had to develop? And I know you said you did shut down for a while, right? But before that, would you say that that was something that was always in there, that you would want to open your heart and be authentic and vulnerable, or did you have to learn how to be that way?
Oh my goodness. It is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. I love that you've asked this question. My heart has always been massive, but my intentions behind it, or what I've needed, have not always been good. And I don't mean, I've always, like, people will call me the good, do-gooder, or the whatever, because I've always wanted to help. I always put my hand up to help, always put my hand up to do stuff. So my heart's always been massive. When I closed down, it was just me, just like, oh my goodness, where do I go? But I didn't, my heart, and that was one thing. So I've been thrown across bedrooms, I've been mentally and physically abused. But the point of no return for me was that he couldn't take my heart. He could take everything else. He could strip me of money. He could strip me of whatever, but he was not going to get my heart. And I believe that God protected me in that time. And so despite what had gone around me, my heart has always stayed soft. And it's something that I pray for regularly, that God will guard my heart and mind, because from our hearts, our mouths speak. And I have spoken some very unkind words because I'm hurt, and hurt people, but healed people heal people. And I have gone through a massive amount of healing, of fit, of working with Pedro Adeo's team, with their fit crew there, to literally, and oh my goodness, what a party we have now. Anyway, we're not going to go there. Jesus sits next to me. The flipping dunamis angels come in every now and again. It's like, oh my goodness, it's party city. Anyway, at the heart part, at the end of the day, out of our hearts, our mouths speak. So my business is all about healing hearts and minds. Because when we do that, when we intentionally take control, our default mode is the enemy. Our default mode is we're born with. So we always think the worst of ourselves. We always think people are judging us, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to go down that route, but that's our default mode. We have the incredible capacity to just choose once. And when we do, we flip that upside down world the right way up. And we start to believe we can be a hero of our own worlds. We can make a difference. We can impact people. We can love. So heart for me has always been there. But what God has done, or Jesus has done, or the Holy Spirit, however you want to put it, is he's put me in right standing. So where sometimes I would have had motives about wanting to do good for others because then it made me feel better, because actually it was about me, that has completely gone. And so my motive is that others will be free from what others think, free from what others do. They will learn who they really are, and they will start to pour out. It's amazing, amazing journey.
It's so simple. And I appreciate that you were, true to form, authentic and vulnerable in that situation. And you shared that it wasn't always, you didn't always have the right intentions, or quote unquote right intentions. It was more self-serving as opposed to being about others. And I think that's one of the I hesitate to say, but one of the secrets of life that a lot of people don't understand is that when you make it about others, then you end up winning, right? You end up winning, you end up getting all the benefits when you just make it about others. But everybody seems to think that, no, it's just a take, and not about giving. And that's something that, luckily I learned that early on, and wasn't always practicing it like you until, later in life. But it's something that, I do my best to practice on a daily basis. And, part of why I do this podcast and everything is to help others through that journey. So one question that I always ask individuals on the podcast is to talk about a spark moment. And a spark moment, as we've coined the term on this podcast, is a time where your actions or another actions have had an effect on you that go far beyond the initial act, that go far beyond that initial moment. So it's that spark moment where, you do someone in someone's life, do something for someone, or you say something to someone, or they say something to you, and that effect has had a ripple that has gone far beyond the initial act. So think for a second and share with us a time where either you were impacted by someone, and you have shared a few that I would say definitely qualify as spark moments, but share a time where you think that either you were impacted or you've impacted someone else as a spark moment.
How many would you like? I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, but I'll give you one or two just quickies because they're poignant moments for me.
Sure.
The first was somebody who spoke to me. So she just was New Year's Eve 4 years ago, and she shared her story of how she'd come to New Zealand, etc., etc. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to, Jesus, in my head, didn't say anything, just in my head, I went, right, you've got me for a year. This is gold. This woman's testimony, this story is gold. You're good. I mean, you've got me for a year. And if you're good, I'll stay. Of course, I haven't gone anywhere. So that was one. Unati, bless her cotton socks, brought me to Jesus. I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything, didn't declare it till 3 months later in church. But from that moment on, my life changed fundamentally. And she's actually the lady who is doing all my social media posts. So she does all the graphics for me for my social media posts at the moment. We've been on an amazing journey. And just trying to think, here we go. Very first client that I coached 4 years ago, I said, any chance you'll be my guinea pig? She said, yeah, I'll totally be your guinea pig. So she's a member of church. And so I coached her for free and, helped her along and got her going, and she was on fire. And I had this thing where I needed to make some curtains. I can make curtains. It's a thing I do or whatever. But they were massive. And there was this beautiful fabric, and I was procrastinating over getting them done. She said, God's told me I need to make your curtains for you. So bless her. She said, as a thank you for coaching me. I'm like, no, the thank you was for you being my guinea pig so I could get my business started. And God's like, no, I'm going to give you a double portion. And so my curtains. But if I have got thousands of stories like that where it's when we give. So a lovely young man who I work with in Project K, he said, I love this. The gift of giving just keeps giving back. So he was a mentor for students, and I'd coerced him into becoming a mentor because I knew it'd be good for him. And it absolutely blew his mind that by giving to this student, he got more in return. He was a Maori boy, so, here, and a dark-coloured boy that he was, and he's a white, ginger-haired guy. Mm-hmm. And he learned, so they call him family. They're like, you're our whānau. He said, how can a white, ginger-haired young man become part of their family? But it's all about relationship. It's all about making connections, all about pouring out love. So I love that. For him, the gift of giving that never stops giving back. And it just keeps pouring. So if you give out, you will always. That's what God says.
Yeah.
30, 100-fold.
Always. Well, thank you for sharing a couple of good examples of spark moments, because we love those on the show. And I know our listeners love those as well, because it's just an example as it doesn't take a lot, right? It just takes something simple that is going to have a big impact for someone else. And that's why it's so important, going back to what we talked about at the beginning, it's so important to continue to practice those moments with others, continue to give, continue to share and love, and all those things are going to come back. So I know our audience is going to want to connect more with you. So share where they can connect, talk about your what next event that you have coming up, and let the audience know how they can learn more about you.
Oh my goodness, you've just given me an open book. That's exciting. So you will find me at www.inspiringperspectives.co.nz. So we're here in New Zealand and under Inspiring Perspectives. And if you pop a /what next in there, or /conference, because I think it can come under either, you will find the details of, I'm so excited. So, okay, this is like, how do you step out in faith and just do it quietly? No, don't do it quietly, Sal. You were told not to do it that way. So I am launching our first international event here in like a tiny little place in New Zealand that nobody even knows about. So we're using our church hall as the venue because it's really just a St. John's ambulance building, so it will hold 120. So people can come live, or they can come online, and we're streaming in from America because we have Dale Sheehan and Melissa Jones, who I believe with Girls Positivity Club has also been on here. She's speaking. I'm so excited. So they're zooming in, and so are their crews zooming in. And just in case the timescales don't work for people, they can actually get the replays. So we're going to give them 3 options. Come live, come on live on Zoom, or watch the replays. And it's all about mess to message. It's all about from where you are now, what have you got in your hand that can give you 30, 60, 100-fold, that you can give to others so that that flow, that living water can flow. Whatever it is, most people have got something they're stuck with or that they're just not fulfilled. So this whole time is around how can we fill you up from the inside out? How can we give you those missing pieces of the puzzle that if you just had that piece of the puzzle, your picture would be complete? Well, that's what Next is about. And instead of being, what next? Oh my goodness, are we going to have COVID again? What next? This is bad. What next? Whatever. Don't like that. So, sorry, that's really bad, isn't it? I shouldn't have done that.
That's great. That's great. I love it.
But it's like, oh, for goodness sake, just stop listening to the flipping news and get on with how brilliant you are. Stop worrying about what everyone else is doing. No one cares. It's time for us to go, what next? What has God got for me? What's my purpose? What's my next assignment? And I coach heaps of non-believers because kingdom principles work across the board. So you don't even have to believe in God to rock up. However, when you do, it's massive, just quietly, because that's where the power comes. But the principles are the same. We do not have to conform to the patterns of this world. And this particular event is about transforming and renewing your mind. Because when you change the way you think or the way you see the world around you changes. And it's time for us to see the world that is out there, that's beautiful, that's uplifting, that's empowering, that's embracing, that works collaboratively, just like we are, not the other stuff. I am over the other stuff so much that this is what fires me to step out and do what next. So I'm really putting this out there. Tell me, Nick, when is this actually going out? Because I have a bit of an offer, I think. When's this actually going to go?
This episode will air that second week of February. So I believe your event is the 10th and 11th of February?
Yep. Or 9th and 10th for you guys. So is it going out on the 8th?
Yes, it will be that Wednesday, yes, which I believe is the 8th, yes.
Okay, I'm going to be super bold. Anyone who responds within 24 hours, because you've only got 24 hours to respond to this and makes it happen, anyone on this podcast can have a free ticket.
Outstanding. Well, thank you very much. When you how did you say it? When you change the world inside you, the world will change. How did you say when you change the world inside, the world will change around you?
I actually borrowed this. I think it's Wayne Dyer and through Scott Benham, which is 100X. So, or Crush It You. And it says, when you change the way you see the world, my business is Inspiring Perspectives. It's in spirit sight. So God blesses cotton socks. It's given me the perspective to see things through Jesus' eyes, see the good, find the heart, find the love, I can find a gold nugget in anyone. And it's so exciting. So when you change the way you see the world, so when you can see the gold nuggets, when you get to see the good, when you get to see what's out there, the world you see changes.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So instead of seeing fault, you see goodness. Instead of judging, you see opportunity. It's just there's a massive shift by one thing, just changing the way you see the world.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think you've answered our last question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. But I think you just did answer our last question. But the final question, and everyone, that's a very generous offer from Sally. So we'll make sure that's in the show notes, the links for what next, for registering for what next. And, I hope you get a lot of attendees that come from this podcast. I mean, that would be a fantastic, fantastic event. So I appreciate you taking your time to share your heart and wisdom. And, we value your thoughts as a social impact hero. So the question that we ask all of our guests on the iSpark Change podcast, the one other question we ask, because our goal at iSpark Change is to positively impact 1 billion people in the next 5 years through our community and through our work. And we can't do that alone. We need the help of impactful leaders and heroes like yourself. because people feel, like I said earlier, if they feel they're too small, they feel like they can't make a difference. So I value your thoughts and opinions as a social impact hero. So peer into the iSpark Change crystal ball, peer into the future, and tell me, what can the world become if everyone believes that they can have an impact on our future?
Unstoppable, in a word. But realistically, it's interesting because if I'm looking into a crystal ball, you and I have a heart to take love out. We have a heart to take the kingdom out there and to literally, he said, you know, my will be done on heaven as it is on earth. And that's my heart, is that everything that we do, the more of us that can connect, the more of us that care, the more of us that love, the crystal ball I see is where we literally are going to cover the earth. The lampstands are going to cover the earth. And we're going to see goodness and honesty and respect and all the fruits of the Spirit. We're actually going to see that evidenced. But the only way we're going to do that is when we speak out, is when we start to stand together, when we back each other, when we lock arms and we say, I'm with you. And the first thing that I did when I was introduced to you was went to your Facebook page, liked, I think, about a dozen posts, so that you would then come up on my feed. So that from then, every time you post, I can like you. I can say yes. I can put a comment on there. I can forward. The more of us that share, that like, that comment, that post, the more coverage we're going to get. And it is absolutely time for the light to shine. There's been far too much darkness, far too much yuck. It's time to have some fun.
Outstanding. Well, I do have to say that, and I appreciate your answer and you expanding on that. I do have to say, each year for the past few years, I've chosen a word of the year, and my word that I chose for this year is unstoppable. So that fits very, very well. And I haven't shared that on the show yet. So, you know, for all the listeners, they'll learn that is my word of the year. And I would encourage everyone to feel that way themselves. So Sally, I just want to say thank you for taking time to share your heart and wisdom with the audience. You came in and you over-delivered, as I knew you would. I knew this would be a fun episode. Your desire to be impactful is clearly evident, and you are filled with passion, determination, and you lead with a heart of service and gratitude, which tells me you're going to continue to have success in all facets of your business and in life. So this is only the beginning of your social impact. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Bless you, and thank you for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to speak. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, all the best. All right, Impact Heroes, remember, it's our stories that connect us all, and we loved hearing Sally's today. Sally Webb, you're not only an inspiring and amazing human being, but you truly are an iSpark Change social impact hero. We'll see you all next time.
Remember, Impact Heroes, every positive action can be a spark moment that has a ripple effect that spreads far beyond the initial act. So go out there and spark change. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this episode, then please smash that 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify and leave a review. We value your comments and we want to hear from you in the community. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and we'll see you next week on the iSpark Change podcast.